Standing up in McKinney. This is According to Callus. Coming to you on the last day of September, the year of our Lord 2024. That's right, it's the 30th. Episode 698. It is a Monday, and I know there's things I could talk about that are going on in McKinney or here locally, but I had this stunning revelation today, and I felt, it demanded to be shared, so I'm going to do that with you today, folks. Please join me. I think it'll be a little entertaining, a little informative, and certainly thought-provoking, and you should know that everything about this is real, though it is slightly tongue-in-cheek. And I think I found a way to get things unstuck. So we'll see what happens. So please stick around, join me. But until we get there, let me remind you folks, the biggest thing you can do to help me make a difference, continue to grow the show, be heard, get the independent voice out there, speaking on reason and well thought out positions. That's what we all want to hear. I mean, anybody can get out there and just throw down and call names and just be a jerk. I try to avoid that as much as I can, right? Doggone it. 700 episodes in. Well, I'm sorry. 698 episodes in. The algorithms have got me. They've just chewed me up, spit me out. And there's only so many things I can do. I need you. I need you to help me out. Like, share, subscribe to the program. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your neighbors. Come and join us. And, I'm on the social medias. I am a pro at Gab. I have a group and a page on Facebook. You can still catch the show over at YouTube most of the time, most of it. I don't want to doom and gloom. I mean, in my mind, it's so easy to doom and gloom. It's so easy to just be negative all the time. So I'm trying to find things to be positive about. I am trying to encourage you, my dear listeners. This will encourage me. And if you're feeling particularly motivated, let me remind you, you can also still rate and review this podcast. So if you just do me that solid, help me out here, let's go out this month with a bang. Stay tuned. Here it comes. I am talking about OST, Operation Sooner Texit. What do I mean? Well, here's where we're going to flip the script here. I have hereby declared myself the unofficial, unauthorized brand ambassador of Texit to Oklahoma, aka the Sooner State. I'm going to suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you have a friend, a family, a acquaintance that resides in Oklahoma and is at least conservative in some way, shape, or form, pro-liberty, and doesn't hate Texas, I would ask you, tell them about this plan. This is what it is. We need to recruit a half a dozen people that are Republicans in good standing in their own counties of Oklahoma to put forth a resolution that states, in the event that Texas should declare independence, Oklahoma should join them. Now, I'm not sold particularly on the exact wording. Feel free to tweak that how you see fit or what you need to do in your county. But if we could get, 6 or 8 counties in the state of Oklahoma to put forth a pro-Texit referendum in Oklahoma, and it's so pro-Texit that they say, if Texas goes, we're going to follow. Now, why do I say this? Why do I bring this up? Well, it seems to me, if you've been paying attention, if you've been following for a while, that Oklahoma actually at times seems more Texas than Texas. They seem to get things done faster. They seem to be quicker to tell the feds to pound sand. They seem to be a lot more aggressive in pushing back on federal tyranny. They seem to be far more interested in looking after their people than Texas is. Now, to be fair, Texas is a whole lot larger. We're dealing with a whole lot of people that are, well, just anti-liberty, anti-freedom, and quite frankly, progressive Democrat socialists, and shouldn't have any power. We should ship them off to New York, Illinois, and California. But being that we're nice, genteel Southern people, we're not going to do that yet. I'm kidding. Not, well, maybe. I don't know. In any case, so my thought is, if we can get, 6 or 8 Oklahoma counties to pass said resolution, that might inspire the Texas, well, yes, it would inspire the people in Texas, maybe, but it might inspire the legislators in Oklahoma because, they're known for telling the feds to go pound sand. They're known for making a stand. Maybe we could get them to pass a resolution at the Oklahoma legislature that says just what I said. In the event that Texas should declare independence, Oklahoma should follow. Now, what will this do? Well, one, it's going to make our own legislature look like the weak sauce that unfortunately they more often than not are, particularly the House under the leadership of the previous speakers. But that's notwithstanding, I'm not confident that we could get Lieutenant Dan to step up to the plate. But maybe if Oklahoma does it, he'll feel the need to be one-upping Oklahoma. He'll feel the need to get a little more oomph in his step. And look, I'm not necessarily meaning to disparage Lieutenant Dan. He does a lot of things quite well. He's just maybe not as pro-Texas or pro-Texit as I would like him to be. But as a reformed Yankee, I get it. Yeah, you're a little afraid. You're not sure you're fully on board with this kind of thing. I understand. But if we got Oklahoma, saying, well, Texas, you ought to find your spine. You ought to do this. Time to man up, cowboy up. I'm going to just guess the folks over at Texas Tech might take offense that the Oklahoma State University kind of out-cowboyed them. You know what I'm saying here? So just maybe if we could get a little traction up in Oklahoma and put some pressure on the boys down in Texas to decide whether or not they're really Texians, whether they're really Texans, whether Texas is first, right? Because that's really what this boils down to. If we can't get our own people to put Texas first, perhaps we need to exert a little Oklahoma-sized pressure on them. I'm just going to guess in Operation Sooner Texit here, that we could get the Sooner neighbors to hold our own legislature to find its spine. To get them to cowboy up, if you will. Now, look, I realize how some of this sounds here, but if you've ever talked to anybody that, talks about the notion of a secession or a national divorce, it's inevitable that if Texas goes, we're going to probably take Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana with us. We're going to probably have to work real hard to not keep Missouri and Kansas and several other states following us. Certainly we would take the lead here. It's entirely possible that you could have a central-southern alliance here. Look, I'm not looking to pick a war or pick a fight or start a war. I think that's a huge, huge mistake. And that's always been one of my greatest concerns. But it seems to me that people actually have wrapped their head around the idea of a national divorce. They've come up with a circumstance where this might be the only plausible way to go forward. To be true, there are a whole lot of people down in Austin, or for that matter, Dallas, that we would like to see, relocate back to California. I imagine there's a good number of people in Houston that we might like to send back to New York or something like that. I'm just guessing. As a reformed Yankee, I'm here to tell you, I left all my Yankee stuff at home. I wish I could get the other Yankees that come here to leave their Yankee stuff at home. I have not been super successful at that, but I will say this. The majority of the Yankees that are coming, well, I shouldn't say Yankees. Let's say the majority of people emigrating to Texas are coming here because they want what Texas offers. Unfortunately, they fail to realize that that means they're going to have to give up some of their Yankee origin stuff, right? I mean, there's plenty of people coming here from California or perhaps the Northeast or even the Midwest. They're nominally Republican. They're nominally conservative. They may even be Christians, but they've been brought up in the culture from where they came, and they want to bring that stuff with them. Now, in the sake of, hey, we got frozen custard here, I'm thrilled to death that the Midwest people brought that here. I am. Or the different pizza places that really weren't around much when I first got here via Chicago, New York, and I mean, even to a lesser degree, St. Louis. I'm very glad to have those opportunities to take that food. But the trade-off was we got a whole lot more people from the north here. Now, it's not the end of the world because they fled where they came from to come here. They just need to leave the rest of that Yankee stuff back where they came from. That is the challenge, right? So that's kind of why the Texas legislature, in my opinion, doesn't want to do anything, because they realize they're the least bad of the lot. They realize they're the most attractive place on the sinking ship. They realize that they really don't have to do much of anything to keep Texas uber attractive to the rest of the states. Now, again, it's not a perfect world. You win some, you lose some. But my sincere hope is that Operation Sooner Texit will encourage those people that are on the fence, would cause people to cowboy up, right? To stand for what matters. Texas first. We shouldn't spend all this time, money, and effort trying to manipulate our people to obey D.C. when we could do our own thing. And I think if we have Oklahoma on our side, if we have Oklahoma maybe even temporarily take the lead here and say, well, if Texas isn't going to cowboy up and Texit, perhaps we'll have to lead the way. Perhaps we'll pass that resolution in the Oklahoma legislature saying exactly what I said. In the event that Texas should declare independence, Oklahoma should follow. Or Oklahoma believes Texas should declare independence so that Oklahoma could join them. I mean, there's so many ways this could be done, and we should have some fun with this. But here's where it comes down to, what are you going to do? It's an hour drive for me to get to Oklahoma. I can get to, 2 or 3 different counties in an hour, hour and a half. What I need is people to help me with introductions. People that will put me in front of other people that would like to have a little fun. Because whether or not you actually are all in on Texas independence, we should all be able to agree that Texans ought to be able to vote on whether or not they want independence. And whether or not you think Texas independence or even Oklahoma following suit is the ultimate goal, we all know that we want to stick a thumb in the eye of our oppressors from D.C. And this is just a little way, a little symbolic thing that could be done short of the full-on national divorce that, honestly, I'm beginning to think is inevitable. I don't see a way that we can completely avoid it. I just don't see it. I hope I'm wrong. But if it's going to happen, I'd rather it happen sooner rather than later so that I'm young enough to still be involved in making sure that it doesn't actually get worse. So that my children and ultimately my grandchildren will have a free and independent Texas, a free and independent Oklahoma for that matter. And while you're at it, let's just go ahead and throw in Arkansas and Louisiana. They'll come along for the ride. We want these things because that's what we were brought up believing we had. That's what many of us gave an oath to the Constitution for, is because we believed that we were free and independent states that came together and created a general government that was going to deal with the foreign invaders, that was going to deal with, foreign trade, that was going to deal with keeping us as a cohesive team. And it seems right now that the federal government is more interested in an invasion, more interested in imploding the economy and running this into debt of oblivion. So why would we continue to pledge obedience or agreement with that crazy nonsense? My oath was to the Constitution. My oath said all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I got to tell you, not to beat a dead horse here, but at what point are you going to realize that what's going on in D.C. is essentially a domestic enemy. And I'm under no illusion that Texas is perfect. I'm under no illusion that any one state can properly do everything by itself alone, with the exception of maybe Texas and California. And while we're at it, I'm a big proponent of Texit, right? California wants to go its own way. It absolutely should. And here's the other thing you ought to keep in mind. All the other 48 states, you want California to leave. Because if California leaves, your 48 states get that much better. Think about it. Texas goes independent, you become a progressive nightmare. Unless, of course, you kick California out. There's nothing to prevent the other 48 states from tossing California. As a matter of fact, I've often wondered why, in our current makeup, we don't try and kick out California right now. You're more trouble than you're worth. Go away. I mean, even the major corporations that had their headquarters in California have kind of figured it out. It's not conducive to doing business. It's not conducive to public order. It's not conducive for anything other than, well, nice weather, mountains, and a nice ocean. But you can get that in other places. I mean, I wish we could cut up California into about 3 different states. I think we would all be better. But that's where we're at. The only option we have, ladies and gentlemen, in my humble opinion, is to start working through the situation that we're in, which is we are a subservient state that is being held captive by a tyrannical group of overlords in Washington, D.C. The way to fix that is to use our overlords down in Austin to push back against the tyrannical overlords in D.C. And I realize that there is a fair chance that the overlords in Austin turn into tyrannical overlords if they were ever to successfully separate us from D.C. But would you let me rephrase this. I would much rather, or would you much rather deal with potential tyrannical overlords that are 3 hours away, that can be more easily replaced, that would be intimidated by their people? Or would you rather continue to deal with what's coming out of D.C.? Would you rather continue to deal with federal judges overruling state laws? They have no ability to do that constitutionally, yet they do it all the time. You can make an argument the Supreme Court maybe could. You can make an argument that if we're violating the U.S. Constitution, that they maybe have a necessary role to do that. But that requires that they're following the Constitution. It requires that if a law is in conflict with the Constitution, it's because the Constitution specifically states this is something states can no longer do. This is something that we gave up to the feds. In most cases, that's not the case. It's just, hey, guys in black robes do what they want to do. And you know what? Yeah, maybe it's nominally better after 4 years of Trump. Fine, I'll give it to him. We have a much better Supreme Court than what we had, 10 years ago. Absolutely. But for how long? What's going to happen next? Who knows? But I will tell you, I'll roll the dice on the members of the Texas Supreme Court, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, all day long over the guys in D.C., over the people in the federal courts and district courts. They don't answer to us. They know they don't answer to us, and they quite frankly don't care. But I'll tell you what. In Texas, we could fix that. So we have to ask our brothers and sisters up in Oklahoma to give us a hand here. So if you're interested, if this sparked more than just a light chuckle, if you find any value to this, do me a solid. Email, text, post on social media. Let me know who I could reach out to in Oklahoma. It's a big state up there. there are lots of people that might be interested in doing exactly what I said. I mean, they may be pro independent Oklahoma. They may be, well, we just want Texas to go away. Well, we don't necessarily prefer that attitude. Or they may be, well, yeah, Texas should go and we're coming with them. Those are the kinds of people we want to talk, or let me say that. Those are the kinds of people I want to talk to. Because remember, I am the self-appointed, unauthorized brand ambassador for Texit. We're going to have a little fun with this, folks. Why not? Why not? You have to laugh in the face of evil. You have to laugh in the face of tyranny. You have to let them know that they can't hold you down forever. You have to let them know that life goes on. You have to let them know that you're still human and you're going to stand up for yourself. It's no coincidence that I'm riffing off of the notion of Mark Belling, the dean of talk radio in Milwaukee before I moved. And he used to say standing up for Milwaukee, which he really legitimately, truly was every day, well, 5 days a week, until he could no longer do it full time. I came to McKinney, Texas. I went on with life. I did all my things. I took the time and said, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast. And what do I do? What do I feel is most important? That people stand up. Right? And this is nothing new. This isn't something unique to me. I mean, I've got a friend that lives up in Prosper. That's what he says all the time. I just want people to stand, Stephen. I don't necessarily have to agree with them. I just want them to stand. We can't get our elected officials to stand no matter what we do. I feel morally obligated to run against these people because they won't stand. You know who you are if you're listening to me. But this is what we're dealing with, folks. If we don't stand up now, if we don't hold the line now, we're going to be in trouble. We're already in trouble. I mean, it's bad enough that I feel like I have to ask people from Oklahoma to help us. That's how bad it is. Finishing my thought out here. A lot of this deals with the idea that in Texas, we do not have a vigorous culture of independence. Oh, we've got a whole lot of Texans. We've got a whole lot of quasi-Texians. We've got a whole lot of transplants. We've got a whole lot of people that are good Republicans. We've got a whole lot of people that are Christians. We have a whole lot of people that are Southern or they want to be their own thing, but they don't rally around a single issue. They don't agree on enough things that we are a political powerful force. And I'm suggesting to you that Texas independence and building a culture of independence is the way to get there. I don't expect everybody to line up tomorrow and say, yeah, absolutely, Texas independent is far better than anything else. Okay, you're not there yet. I totally get it. Or, I'm really worried, how are we going to take care of Texas if we get independence? Hey, you know what? That's a very good point. You should look into that. There's books written on that. Or, hey, I'm really worried that, the federal government's going to invade Texas if we go our own way. Yeah, I'm less worried about that now than what I was 5 years ago. But I got to tell you, well, let's say 10 years ago. I got to tell you, it's a valid question. I just don't see it happening. And if we have an actual culture of independence, that is, people that know how to take care of themselves, look out for their friends and family, and, we produce enough of our own food that we're not dependent on the other states. We produce enough of our own fuel needs that we're not dependent on other states. We produce enough of our own power that we're not dependent on other states. We produce enough of our own vehicles or manufacturing that we can provide for most of the needs that we have in the state of Texas, which, by the way, we're more than capable of those things right now. We just have to do it. That we man and protect our border all the way around. That we augment the Texas Rangers to where they're the most fearsome force to be dealt with by any bandit, terrorist or otherwise. We can do all these things quite easily. We just have to have a will to do it. And the way you get a will to do it is you develop your culture of independence. A culture of we can do this on our own. We can do this as an individual person. We can do this as an individual family. We can do this as an individual extended family. We can do this as an individual community. We can do this as a county. We can do this as the state of Texas, as the nation of Texas. We are capable and we can look out for ourselves. That doesn't mean we're never going to need any help. It doesn't mean that we can't take things from the outside. It doesn't mean that we won't trade. It doesn't mean that we don't love our neighbors. It just means that we're not going to be dependent on DC. These are all easily attainable goals. And when I say easily attainable, I realize there's a lot of work. I realize there's difficulties of getting from where we're at to where we need to be. But it's easy in concept. It's easy in understanding. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. And the work's not that hard. It's just there. And there's a lot of it. But it takes one person to take one step, followed by another person taking that one step. And soon you have hundreds of people taking that step. Now, the good folks over at T&M, they've been at this for a long, long time. And I'm not about to step on their toes, which is why I was very clear. I'm self-appointed and unauthorized. I'm doing this on my own because, one, I think it's fun. Two, I think it's a good idea and strategy. And three, if it blows up in my face, it's not T&M's fault. But I'm going to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, I've talked about this on more than one occasion. Would you rather have a de facto independent Texas that does all those things I just outlined and just remains part of the party to what we have now? I mean, for me, that's an easy, oh yeah, of course. Let me go you one better. If we do that successfully, would you feel confident that we could become a de jure independent nation? Once we've demonstrated our ability to do all the things that we need to do, and we have a culture of independence, and we have a generation of children that were raised that understand what it means to be a Texian, they understand what it means to be good conservative Christian people, that they understand what it means to be a patriot, that they understand what it means to love your country and your people. How do you feel about that? And I can already hear the naysayers. The people are everybody that's here, that belongs here, that's here legally. There are a whole lot of Tejanos that were in place when the Texians, and they worked together to overthrow Santa Anna. And they were here for generations and generations, and they're being overrun by people that come here that don't share the values and they don't share the concerns. Then there are a whole lot of folks that were brought here against their will, whether they were quote-unquote Native Americans. It's a little dicey. I could say quote-unquote Indians if you prefer. Or former Africans or former Caribbeans that came here. There wasn't their ancestors' first choice, but once they were here and they were all in, who are we to kick them out? Who are we to say they shouldn't be part of the party? Who are we to say that they can't make Texas better? We got to draw a line in the sand. We got to be willing to say, you've come far enough, you ain't coming any further, and we're going to handle our own business because you, DC, not only have failed to do the job, you're actively working against us, and we're not going to take it anymore. And I think the easiest way, or if you will, the most aggressive way we can accomplish that is by asking our friends up in Oklahoma to give us a hand. Help us out. It's not that hard. It's an easy ask. The question is, do you have the courage to do it? Are you willing to go and put your name down on that line? So if you believe in Texas first, help me out. If you believe that Texit could and should be a reality at some point in the future, help me out. If you listen to me and you're in Oklahoma, call me, text me, email me. Let's talk. And with that, this has been According to Callus, and I will see you on the other side.